In just 10 minutes, get 10 most valuable takeaways from the 3-hour conversation between UFO whistleblower Charles Hall and Jesse Michels. Hall reveals living with tall white aliens at Area 51, secret military coexistence, and UFO tech that challenges Einstein. Stay till the end. You won't want to miss this. Takeaway 1. Living with aliens at Area 51. Charles Hall explained that while many people only claim to see aliens once or twice, he actually lived with them for more than 2 years while stationed at Nellis Air Force Base near the area most people know as Area 51. He said that in the mid-1960s he was a young weather observer, often left alone in the desert to record conditions for military operations. During these long and isolated periods, he began seeing tall, pale, glowing figures moving at a distance. At first he thought they were ghosts or hallucinations, and many other men who worked there believed in a strange legend of a glowing horse called Range 4 Harry. Some men even refused to return to duty after seeing strange figures. Unlike them, Hall stayed, and eventually he realized these were not ghosts but living beings who would later be known to him as the Tall Whites. Over time, he developed a strange kind of trust with them. He described seeing family groups of parents and children. He said some of them lived underground in bases built into the desert, complete with hangars for their craft. He eventually saw them so often that he considered one of them like a brother. Hall remembered times when they tested him by suddenly appearing or disappearing to see if he would panic, and slowly they began treating him with more respect. For example, Hall explained that when the Tall Whites wore their protective suits, the fields around their bodies allowed them to float above the desert floor. When several of them grouped together, they looked like a giant glowing horse running across the land, which explained why soldiers used to talk about Range 4 Harry. He said he personally watched them move at speeds close to 100 miles per hour while floating in this strange formation. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2. Aliens working alongside the military. Charles Hall said that the Tall Whites operated their bases in the Nevada desert, right next to American military facilities. He explained that their presence was treated almost like a foreign embassy, where only a small number of Pentagon officials were allowed to interact with them. Most of the maintenance men and range workers had no idea what was really happening, and only heard rumors about glowing shapes in the night. Hall's own duty placed him in direct contact, which gave him experiences most others never had. He said the Tall Whites had been on Earth since at least the Ice Age, and that they used certain valleys and dry lakes in the desert as farming and storage areas. He claimed that the military allowed them to operate freely because of their technology and because they were treated as equals in a diplomatic sense. For example, Hall remembered that in the 1930s, long before Area 51 was publicly known, President Roosevelt suddenly declared a section of the Nevada desert a protected game range to save desert sheep. According to Hall, this move conveniently hid the presence of tall white bases in the same area. And it was no coincidence that later the region became home to the most secret testing grounds in America. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, strange patterns in paranormal land. Hall noticed that the most restricted military bases often sat on land that was already considered strange or paranormal long before the military arrived. He said this was true for places like Roswell, Skinwalker Ranch, and of course Area 51. In these places, people had reported glowing lights, strange creatures, or even portals in the air. The military, according to Hall, did not randomly choose these sites for weapons testing, but claimed land that already had unusual qualities and alien activity. For example, he pointed out that Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, famous for stories of shapeshifters and glowing orbs, sits near Dugway Proving Ground, a government facility. Locals had long believed the land was cursed or full of portals before the government fenced it off. Hall suggested that this was the same reason bases like Area 51 were placed in certain deserts, because the aliens were already there. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, meeting different alien species. Although most of his time was with the Tall Whites, Charles Hall also said he saw other species. The most common were the Greys, small beings with large heads and fragile bodies. He said their crafts were far more numerous than those of the Tall Whites. He also described the Nordic-type aliens, whom he called Norwegians with 24 teeth, who could sometimes pass among humans without being noticed. He said the Tall Whites had the most advanced technology, but the Greys had been on Earth longer. For example, Hall explained that if a person sees a UFO in the sky, there is about a 90% chance it belongs to the grays, and only about a 10% chance it belongs to the tall whites. This helped explain why so many sightings involved the gray-type craft, even though the tall whites were more advanced. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, communication with aliens. Hall described how the tall whites communicated in ways that were very different from humans. They often spoke in very high-pitched sounds that people could not hear, making it look as if they were talking telepathically. They also carried technology that could read human thoughts or even plant thoughts directly into the mind. Hall remembered moments where he thought he was hallucinating or lacking vitamins, only to realize later that his mind was being influenced by their devices. For example, he told of a time when he thought he was imagining alien children playing inside his barracks. He blamed it on poor nutrition and decided he needed to drink more milk. Later, he realized that the children were real and his thoughts had been confused by their technology. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Watching alien crafts move. Charles Hall said that the biggest shock he felt was not that extraterrestrials existed, but that their crafts moved in ways that proved Einstein was wrong. He saw crafts shaped like eggs or tic-tacs that could vanish instantly and reappear somewhere else. When their power coils were activated, the craft looked fuzzy white, surrounded by force fields instead of metallic. For example, he calculated that when the tall whites went on a trip to the star Arcturus, which is 36 light-years away, and returned in just 2 months, their crafts would have to travel at least 40 times faster than the speed of light. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. How alien crafts are built. Hall said that the design of alien ships explained their ability to travel faster than light. He explained that the ships had to be smooth and ellipsoidal without sharp or concave edges, because any roughness would make the force fields turbulent and waste infinite energy. Deep spaceships were larger and had double hulls filled with fiber optic windings to channel subatomic particles that generated the force fields. For example, Hall described one deep spaceship he saw that was bigger than a house. It had a smooth exterior with no protrusions, cabins inside like a seagoing ship, a cockpit at the front, and propulsion systems in the back. He said this type of craft was designed to travel to stars more than 100 light-years away. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Why Einstein was wrong. Charles Hall firmly believed that Einstein's relativity had misled science. He created his own Hall Photon Theory, which suggested that light carried many more force fields than just the electric and magnetic ones. He said some of these fields were weak, but could travel much faster than light, which explained how alien crafts moved across space. He pointed out that gravity clearly affects galaxies millions of light-years away, which would be impossible if it only traveled at the speed of light. For example, he said that neutrinos can travel through solid matter without slowing down, which means they can move much faster than light while still being part of the same universe. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Psychological defenses that saved him. Hall believed he was chosen for these encounters because of his unusual mental resilience. A CIA psychiatrist told him that while most people used only 1 or 2 psychological defenses, Hall naturally used more than 70. This meant that no matter how frightening the encounters became, he never broke down the way others had. He said this allowed him to continue interacting with the aliens and to return safely each time. For example, Hall remembered agreeing with the tall whites that if he came across one of them in the desert, he would sing a song to let them know he was there instead of startling them. This simple method helped build trust and prevented dangerous misunderstandings. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Lessons humanity must face. In the end, Hall said the real lesson from all of this was that humans must expand both their science and their spirit. The tall whites lived for hundreds of years and used technology far beyond ours. He believed their presence shows us how limited our current understanding is. He said humans must be ready to accept that time always moves forward, that there are more particles and forces than we know, and that one day we must meet such beings on equal terms. For example, he warned that if we keep clinging to the idea that time can slow down or reverse, We will never understand the reality of faster-than-light travel, and we will never match the abilities of those who already visit us. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.